I'm a big fan of Friends, the TV show, and in particular the character of Chandler, so I've watched a lot of Matthew Perry's other work. And so I thought I'd share my thoughts on his other work and give some recommendations of what to watch, but also what to avoid. But I am a relatively harsh critic, so take everything I say with a pinch of salt. The Odd Couple. The Odd Couple isn't great. Despite the two leads being Matthew Perry and Thomas Lennon, two very funny comedic actors, the show never really worked for me. It's a remake of the film and the play The Odd Couple, which is basically about these two men who are very opposite in personalities living in the same apartment. One's messy, one's clean, that kind of stuff. It did 3 seasons before it got cancelled, but I honestly don't remember making it through the first season. Yeah, it was disappointing and I don't think it's worth a watch. Go On. Go On was alright. It had a strong supporting cast around Matthew Perry and it really tried to bring some depth and emotional maturity to what was a light-hearted comedy. Matthew Perry plays a sports broadcaster who is pressured by his boss to join a support group after the death of his wife. You can imagine when the trailer for this show came out, there were so many comments in the YouTube video being like, "Oh no, what happened to Monica?" Yeah, there was a lot of those. I think they balanced the tragedy and the humour quite well. It only got 1 season though. I don't remember being too disappointed when it got cancelled, but it was not bad. I think it really, in a weird way, was ahead of its time. I think it's more similar to the comedy shows of today, shows like Abbott Elementary, more than it was like the shows back then. If you've got literally nothing else to watch, then perhaps give it a go. It's only 1 season, so it won't take you too long. Mr. Sunshine. This show was actually created and mostly written by Matthew Perry himself. So with that being the case, there's a lot of Matthew Perry type humour in this show. However, I wouldn't say it was hilarious, but it certainly has its moments. Despite having Oscar Award winner Allison Janney in the surrounding cast, the characters are pretty forgettable. Unless you're keen to explore Matthew Perry's work as a writer, then this is probably not one that's worth watching. 17 Again. I think 17 Again is a good film. Zac Efron does a great job in it, and it's a sweet film. There's nothing more to it than what you see on the surface, but sometimes that's not a bad thing. Matthew Perry isn't in this film that much, but he is good in the bits that he is in. It's fun, it's a very 2000s kind of movie, and I do think it's worth watching if you just want to have something easy to watch where you don't have to think that much. The Ron Clark Story, or The Triumph as I've seen it also be called. This is actually surprisingly good. This is a TV movie from 2006 based on the true story of the teacher Ron Clark. Matthew Perry plays a small town teacher who relocates to one of the toughest classrooms in the country. And I only watched it once a while ago, but I do remember enjoying it. It's no Dead Poet Society, but Matthew Perry gives a really good dramatic performance, and I think he might have even been nominated for a couple of awards for his performance in this movie. It may have aged poorly. It was made in 2006, so maybe I should give it a rewatch, but yeah, I can recommend giving it a go. The Whole Nine Yards. The Whole Nine Yards is okay. I think action comedy films are really difficult to get right, and they almost got it right with this one. There are some very funny moments. Matthew Perry brings out some of the funniest physical comedy I think I've seen him ever do. But aside from that, I'm not sure there's much more that I can credit this movie with. Strong surrounding cast, but yeah, it's fine. It's maybe just about worth watching. Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. Now this is everything. Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip is without a doubt my favourite TV show that Matthew Perry stars in, aside from Friends. To be honest, it's one of my favourite shows, full stop. It's created and written by Aaron Sorkin, who wrote The West Wing, The Social Network, and a load of other great movies, TV shows, and plays. Studio 60 is a behind-the-scenes look at a fictional late-night comedy show, kind of like SNL. It's a comedy drama, so it's both funny and also serious, and I think that's the particular area where Aaron Sorkin and actually Matthew Perry really thrive in. Unfortunately, it was cancelled after just 1 season, but everyone I've shown it to have really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend it. It's great characters in interesting and unique situations, and the show touches on a lot of serious topics, which really lends the show a lot of depth. Matthew Perry's character, for instance, struggles with a drug addiction, which Matthew Perry himself has struggled with, as has Aaron Sorkin. So this storyline really comes across as incredibly authentic because it's something that both the actor portraying the role and the writer writing the role had personally experienced. If you watch anything on this list, make it Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. If you like Friends and you've been bothered to watch this video, I'd bank on you also enjoying Studio 60. It's a great performance by Matthew Perry in a world-class show. I want to watch it again, having just talked about it. The End of Longing. I also wanted to mention I was lucky enough to see The End of Longing, which was a play that Matthew Perry wrote and starred in. It was on the West End here in London, God, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago now. It was good. I enjoyed it. It felt very autobiographical for Matthew Perry. He played a character struggling with addiction and his performance felt very real and personal. It definitely had a few funny lines and a couple of laugh out loud moments, but I think the play was much more serious than you might expect. The show didn't get a huge amount of critical acclaim, but I enjoyed it and I was really pleased I got the chance to see Matthew Perry perform live, because I'm not sure I'd ever get that experience again. Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. This is Matthew Perry's autobiography, which I was very excited to read. And it lives up. It is very powerful. If you're going into this book thinking that it's going to be like, oh, like fun stories from behind the scenes of Friends, it's not that at all. Obviously he talks about Friends, how could he not? But really, the main theme of this book is the main thing that has taken over his entire life, which is his battle with addiction. He writes very honestly and really tells some powerful, emotive stories that I think really opens your eyes to addiction, and seeing it from a first-person perspective of someone who has struggled with it for so long and also so publicly was very powerful. I listened to the audiobook and I'm really glad I did, because Matthew Perry himself read it and he did a very good job of reading it and bringing in that classic Matthew Perry candor that you would expect. I can highly recommend his autobiography if you're yet to read or listen to it. Well, there you go. Those are my thoughts on some of Matthew Perry's other works outside of Friends. Have you seen anything I mentioned, or have you seen anything I didn't mention? I'd love to hear about both in the comments section down below. Thanks again for watching, and feel free to subscribe to the original Huggsy channel, this channel which is just going to be about Friends and nothing else. So if you're a Friends fan, this is definitely a great channel to subscribe to. Thanks again for watching. Goodbye for now.